Welcome back to another episode of the Paper Stack Podcast. Rick Allen, Brett Berkey here. So excited today for our guest. Got a lot of good stuff to go over. She's been in the industry for a long time and has started a new endeavor. Same industry. Wanted to welcome Shante Duffy to the podcast.
Thank you for having me.
Yes, we're super excited to have you here. I know you've been in the servicing industry for a long time. When I first boarded loans with a servicer, you were one of the people that we started with. And I think we boarded our first loan. It's probably been like at least 6 or 7 years, maybe 8 years. I don't know.
You guys were early on into my starting in this industry.
Yeah, definitely. Tell us your background. Unpack for us. Tell us a little bit. Your past, where you're born, where you came from, how you got into the industry, and what do you have going on now?
Absolutely. So born and raised in New Jersey is where I will forever stay. I genuinely got into this industry because I am a mom. I had my son almost 10 years ago. I spent the first year at home with him and realized that I was not cut out to be a stay-at-home mom. And I genuinely just kind of was looking to get back into work and something that was close to home because I had never left him before. And I came across a servicing company that was within 3 miles of my home. Didn't know anything about loan servicing. I didn't know anything. I honestly thought it was like a scam. I had never heard of servicing companies. The most I knew about mortgages at the time was you either pay your mortgage or you lose your home. Pretty straightforward. Didn't know there was a secondary space. And I started as an admin assistant, and just over the past, 8, almost 9 years, have been learning through, just experience and kind of boots on the ground approach, and climbed my way up and gained knowledge every single day and discovered that I love this industry. It's definitely challenging, but the fun part is working with investors. That's my favorite part. And here I am, and decided to take a giant leap, take a huge risk, and decide to start my own servicing company. So here we are almost 9 years later, and just kind of hitting the ground running.
That's cool. How long have you been working on the new servicing company?
Just for a few months, to be 100% honest. I was already, working with another servicing company and just kind of decided I thought I needed a change. And then I sat around for a few weeks, and I'm not meant to just sit. I was bored. I love my son to death. I was spending time with him, but I was like, I can't do this. And I was actually approached by a few investors, and they were like, hey, you left the space, but you love it. You've always said that, and we love you. Why wouldn't you just do it on your own? And I was like, okay, because there's a big part of me, again, born and raised in New Jersey. I'm never leaving. This is just home. This is where my family is. This is where I want to raise my son. Crazy state that we have here. And it was one of those like, okay, I'm up for the challenge, not realizing what type of challenge this was, because it's very, very different than what I'm used to. I understand the day-to-day in a servicing company and, the actual servicing of loans when loans get boarded, the loss mitigation, working with customer service reps and asset managers, attorneys, dealing with bankruptcies, understanding all of that. But the actual setting up a servicing company is something I didn't know about. So I'm over here like, yeah, I can do it. And definitely had a little bit of a learning curve, but I'm learning. And that's been the most fun part of this entire thing. Understanding how to get licensed, the softwares we need. I come from the background where a lot of that was already done for me. So I just had to do everything else, which is the fun part. But I'm learning and have been learning and spending a lot of time researching, speaking with different states, talking to attorneys, talking to other vendors, trying to figure out how to make sure that our servicing company runs as smooth as possible.
Right. So it's like working in your business versus working on your business.
Yes.
You are getting to do the work on your business part right now, which is, that is fun because, same thing when we started Paper Stack. It's, I knew about note trading. I knew about investing in notes, but running a technology company or developing a technology,
it's different.
It is different. And it's all in the same space, but man, there is a ton of different things you need to think about. So that's really awesome. What's the name of your servicer?
BIFI Loan Servicing, LLC.
Okay.
The BIFI actually stands for Buy Investors for Investors. So
Nice.
I have a few partners
Who are
where they actually are note investors.
Okay, and
And
your partners are, what are their names?
Christopher Seveney and Jamie Bateman.
Okay,
I've heard of those
They
guys.
kind
yeah,
of
we know
approached.
them.
Yep, I know you do. They kind of approached me after noticing that I left my prior employer and was like, "Shay, Shante, like, why don't you try this? This is what we've been trying to do. So it'd be cool to have you part of this." So it was definitely, I've known them very, very well, very long time. And I love them just as people in general. They were definitely a few of my favorite clients to work with back in the day. And so, they kind of were like, what do you need? And we'll help you out with it. And the best part about having them as partners is that they are actual note investors. So bringing all of our minds together, I come from the background of servicing. So I understand the pitfalls there. I for years just would hear, why lenders were upset, what stressed them out, what their expectations of a servicer. And then I also watch, every servicer in our space in the secondary market, where, some of them are great at one thing or a few things, but they lack in others. So I got to hear, I love feedback. I love people's opinions. I love hearing that, what's good and what's bad. And I spent a lot of time sitting down and, okay, if we're going to do this, we have to, be a little bit different. And so I spend a lot of time just outside of my two partners, talking to other investors that I've built relationships with over the past few years and wanting to know their biggest headaches, their biggest stressors. What are they expecting from their servicer? And if it was realistic or if it wasn't, and then how to make sure we met their needs. And because, what you guys would need as investors, a lot of other investors would potentially need, but they're afraid to ask. They're afraid to speak up. I like the loud people. I like the people who complain because that gives us a little bit of more motivation and drive to figure out how to fix these they're just little holes. I always say that servicers, we're the bad guys in this note space. You guys don't like us, but you need us. I, of course, want to be wanted as well as needed. So taking that feedback is very, very important to me. I wanted to make sure that this was a servicing company that was for investors and that within, as a servicer, keeping things in regulation and keeping things within compliance and following laws, that was still there, but that we met the needs of investors. We don't really want you guys having to do too much legwork. That's what your servicer's for. We also realized that there's just certain across the board in servicing, there's strengths and then there's our weaknesses. So I've spent a lot of time these past few months talking to different vendors where their strong points are where we lack and partnering up with them to make sure that we hit every need that we've heard and that we've requested. So, or that has been requested from us. So I've definitely tackled a few different vendors to assist us, whether it became down to foreclosure management, escrow management, forced place insurance, REO, property preservation. Those are things that, as an investor, you need. But as a servicer, we're really good at the loss mitigation side and keeping things within compliance. So it's okay to lean on some other people. And I was able to get a lot of these, vendors to change a lot of their systems to fit what you guys as investors would need. So I'm super excited about that. And I'm testing a lot right now before I open the doors to other investors, but I'm super excited to see those relationships come into play and start working.
Well, that's awesome. It's like I said, it's always good to work on the business and in the business. What has a couple questions for you? One, you did all this research. You started doing customer exploration, talking to your future customers. What were some of the biggest complaints that you heard? We asked this question to Chris, and he was, like, as you said, a great mouthpiece. He has no problem voicing his opinion, which I love also. I love it. Tell it the squeaky wheel. But so one is I'd like to know, what are the top 3 to 5 complaints you heard, but also how are you fixing those, and what's your plan to sort of tackle that and make BIFI the best servicer out there?
So we'll start with the most obvious, which to me is the most important: communication. That is I sat down with a whole bunch of different people, and that was everybody's first piece. And then things came after. Communication is, to me, the most important. You guys as investors and lenders, you should always have an idea of what's actually going on with your investment. You shouldn't actually have to be reaching out to your servicer to ask, hey, did my borrower make a payment? Or, hey, was this tax bill paid? Or, things like that. It should be readily available to you. And you should actually be getting notified, not the other way around. I also, I understand investing is not everyone's full time job. They legitimately have regular full time jobs and families. So the investment should kind of be going on its own, and you guys should kind of just be getting notified. So communication was the biggest push. We're using a lot of automation and technology and different processes from our team to make sure that you as lenders are not necessarily reaching out to find out. We're giving you that information. We don't want, I know there's a lot of communication breakdown when it came down to loans that were in bankruptcy or in a foreclosure. That was a big one. Not understanding, especially the newer investors that are still a little green, not knowing these processes and how long they can take and what attorneys need, and working with courts even outside of COVID. Before all of COVID and everything shut down, that was a big headache for people. And I understand trusting and putting everything with your servicer, but you guys should never be flying blind. And I used to get frustrated with getting emails because I'm kind of like, well, someone should have told you that. I don't necessarily work loans and never really have, but I just felt that there needed to be a little bit more transparency. So we won't offer, I know there's some servicers out there that offer like that you guys can manage your own loans and handle your own loss mitigation and foreclosures and things like that. We are not allowing that. Number one, it's a compliance issue. Where we end up getting fined, and those fines easily could be passed off to you guys, and they are hefty fines. And number two, no one should be out of the loop. So we plan on keeping everything streamed together between us, any attorneys, and the lender. There's no email that should be going to an attorney regarding a foreclosure or a bankruptcy that you as a lender is not included on. You should be able to learn how this process goes by watching the communication that's coming directly to you. You can absolutely respond, ask questions, things like that, but we all need to be on the same page. And we all need to understand what's going on. As your servicer, we need to know, we need to be able to act and take action. But you guys as the investors also need to understand what's happening and how long these processes do take and how long they can take. I know people are eager. So that first point of communication, that's up front. The transparency with the communication is very, very important to me. I don't want you guys guessing, and I definitely don't want you guys being like, oh, BIFI's horrible because they don't answer the phone or they don't talk to me. That's always been a pitfall. The second most important thing that I heard about was Escrow Services. A lot of people, from what I've heard from the people I've talked to, they struggle with understanding how their servicer handles escrow. They felt that they shouldn't be contacted to go track down a tax bill when you're paying for a service. You're spending money, additional money, each month for escrow services. And they kind of sat down and started to question, what exactly am I paying for? You're going to have me do the legwork when it's technically you that's, collecting the money and dispersing it. You should be able, you have the information, you should be able to obtain that on your own. That was a big, hey, I don't have the time for this. When you have one or two loans, that's great. Lenders have no problem. But I've worked with lenders that have over 100 loans. And that's a lot of their time to sit there and go track. So that was one of those, hey, as a servicer, you're offering a service. It should be, start to finish, not have me start it and then you guys carry it out after. That was a big, a huge issue, which I didn't realize was that important to a lot of investors. Didn't understand why they were frustrated with that. And I definitely had to change that because I heard it from several different investors. And it was news to me, but I appreciated the honesty because if you're feeling like that, I'm sure that there's several other people who do and just, aren't comfortable with speaking up and things like that. So those are definitely the top two. And the third one, which is my all-time favorite, is all about forced place insurance. Getting those policies. Every servicer does it a little bit differently. I've talked to other servicers about how they handle it and how it is stressful for investors. They're not sure. It's easy to tell somebody how to place, forced place insurance and, hey, this is what I need. But, hey, are you covered under the right policy so that when something happens and you need to file a claim, that claim is filed correctly and all of that. So I actually reached out to 2 different vendors to help out with the tax side of things and then the force-based insurance side of things, to kind of eliminate those stressors and those fears and get it to be easy to understand. Insurance is hard. I learned that diving in. It's difficult. It's not something I expect every person to understand. And I basically had to go through a lot of, meetings and calls and hours and hours and hours, making sure that I understood it to be able to relay back to my clients how things actually work and why things need to be set up a certain way. I want to make sure that you guys are set up correctly. And that's why, I spend a lot of this time making sure that I understand so I can relay that in the most basic terms. Because once you start throwing fancy stuff out there, you lose a few people. But just want to make sure that everybody has the understanding so they know and they know the process of things and they're not flying blind. I've heard investors request copies of policies, their servicer's force-based insurance policy, and some servicers won't send it. You should send it. You should if someone asks, that's only every client you ask. I got to a point where I was like, everyone's just going to get a copy of it. Once they place it, you're going to get a copy.
That's
You
great.
should know.
Yeah, that's awesome. It's all the stuff that you talked about are kind of the stuff that we would expect and we've heard in the past. These are the big issues. Sounds like it's a lot of work when you start thinking about like, look, I'm setting up insurance, I'm setting up licensing. Like, is it expensive to set up a loan servicer?
It is very expensive. I had no idea.
Like, are we like a couple $1,000, a couple $50,000, $100,000, $1 million? But like, what are we talking?
Over 100,000, and this
Wow.
is just us getting started. Between just we also I bought office space. I did not rent. So I decided I found space. It's close to my home. That was my only criteria. I wasn't opposed to renting, but just happened to find that they were for sale. And I was like, look, I'm not going anywhere. I'm starting this. I'm going to, ride this out. And happened to buy 2 office units down here in Hackettstown, New Jersey, which is definitely northwest, closer to Pennsylvania, right off of Route 80. It's that alone, which wasn't expected. That has cost alone. But then you have servicing software, you have computers. In order to be licensed, you have to have certain requirements in your office. You need to make sure you have cameras and locks and certain things. And you don't realize how much that stuff adds up. And that has nothing to do with the licensing. Licensing is way bigger than just like the fee you see on the NMLS. You have to register your entity in that state as a foreign business. There, you have to get bonds. It's a lot. It's a lot more than I expected. And there's times where I definitely am up at night. I'm like, I can't breathe because we spent so much money buying office furniture, making sure that I have my staff ready and set up. Everybody needs their own computers. Everybody needs software. Software is you guys know, very, very expensive.
Right.
I didn't understand how expensive until I had to look at a price tag. Getting websites built, getting portals built, that stuff all costs money, but that's what you guys as investors need.
Right. Yeah.
So I want to make sure I have everything for you. So it's worth it, but it's, you definitely lose some sleep at times.
So you already have a team already ready to go?
I started a team. Yeah, we're actually at a point where we're testing. I would like to open doors to other investors come October. So everything is basically set up. We have a whole bunch of licenses pending, applications sent in. We have gotten approved in about 6 or 7 states already. So we do have some. And with those states, I'm actually testing with a few investors to make sure that our processes are in order and that everything works. Before I open to everybody else and we fail.
Wow.
So it's more, hey, I have some guinea pigs that are willing to let me, use them and, bear with me to make sure that everything works and that we can get in a rhythm.
Yeah,
that's the most important.
It's very interesting. It's very impressive because like everything you're saying is just like such an entrepreneurial way of doing it, where you actually have customer surveys, you actually understand the pain points, and I'm listening to them like this sounds like
stuff we did.
Like a boot what do you call it? The accelerators where you actually go through, find the pain points, who's your customer avatar, what are they doing? Now you're actually about to start the beta period. You're gonna beta period and find out the gotchas, the ahas, like, hey, this is not good, this is good, we need to change it.
It's stuff that we live and breathe on a daily.
Yeah.
So it's good to see somebody else in the space.
Yeah.
So we sympathize.
Yeah, very much so. Two-step tech. If you can do it, that's our thing too. Like, if you can figure out how to solve the problem with a technological solution, it'll only allow you to scale. That's one thing that we've learned, that
That's
less human interventions. Huh?
Automate. That's our biggest push too. Use technology to automate as much as you can. The customer focus really comes from our customer service department. If I can automate almost everything else, I'm going to. It's also faster, less wait time, things like that, and less manpower. People's time is valuable. And the way that I know what it's like to board loans. I know it's like how long it takes to board one loan. I know how long it takes to board 10 loans. I understand that whole process. That's what I used to do all day long. And just trying to get that as smooth and transparent as it's hard, but it's worth it. It definitely is. And just finding a solution, it's a challenge, but I'm always up for it. And yeah, I might take 4 days trying to figure it out, but I do end up figuring something out, or, we're always back to the drawing board. Because the core is there. It's now just actually executing and making sure that execution is smooth.
That's cool. That's really cool. Yeah. Are you guys going to operate on, I guess, Eastern Standard Time, but still keep people open for the guys and gals out west?
It's something that I think is very important, especially getting licensed out west. Not just the investor, but dealing with the homeowners and the borrowers. You have time frames when you can call these borrowers, and we are 3 hours ahead being over here in New Jersey than the people in California and Nevada and things like that. So I do have to keep that open. I don't want borrowers not called just, hey, they work. If they need to be called later in the day, and the same thing here, most of them, hopefully. We try to pay attention to that. And I don't want borrowers or investors necessarily missed at any point in time just because of a time zone. So that's very important to me as well.
That's smart. I like it. We have to figure out a way to do some of the integrations with BIFI and PaperStack somehow.
We will.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
So how many states right now are you guys licensed in? Or let's say this, by the end of the year, how many states do you think you guys will have?
Our goal was 40 states.
Holy cow.
I spent an entire 2 days nonstop, did nothing else, just submitting after submitting each application. And at that point, it ends up in the state's hands. They come back and tell you if you need anything. And it's a lot of back and forth. Some states are super quick. Some states just take forever because there's 15 stages. Of course, once I hit submit, I'm like, okay, are we gonna get this back in 2 days? No, it's never that quick. They actually have allotted a specific time. So sometimes it's, 60 to 90 days that we won't hear anything because it's going through their process.
Right.
So we have about 6-7 states, but I know I've submitted well over than that. And a lot of them were just pending. A lot of them required certain training that you had to have. So I have myself and my staff working on that to make sure that we hit every check mark on their checklist to be able to actually be approved. And it's, it's definitely a little challenging. Some states we had to push off for a little bit because they had weird requirements that as a brand new company we didn't have. And so had to kind of work around things like that. But I'm excited. We're definitely leaving some of these states behind for a little bit, but we also sat and discussed where we see a lot of investors buying. And then there's also some states that are like, hey, this is easy to get. You never know, it could open doors to a new investor.
Right.
And of course, now we're, our competition, our competitors, a lot of them are 50 state licensed. So if we can't just have 10, that's going to do nothing for us.
Right.
I want to be able to accept loans, and I don't like turning people away just off of a licensing standpoint. I would like to know, I'm totally for that. Hey, Shante, I'm buying here. There's just some states that are very tough to just work in, following the regulations. So New York, for instance, I'm saving that to the back burner, but it's a goal of mine. It's a very tough state. It's a daunting state. It's a lot of work, a lot of different requirements. But then there's others, of course, the Florida, we're already approved in Texas. Missouri, I think was our first approval. Indiana, of course, we're looking at Illinois, Ohio, those have all been sent out. I think we got Arkansas recently, Idaho, which is such a random state for us to get. But there's a few states that we've already been approved in, and we're just waiting for the rest. So that's also going to kind of slow down the startup. So I'm not completely bombarded as well.
That's good.
We have so many, and that we can make sure that everything, again, is still working after the beta phase. And just as licenses come out, just update everybody. Okay, now we can accept these.
That's cool.
I will not accept anything, any type of loan, if I'm not licensed in that state. It's not
You're
worth
gonna
it.
have to do Georgia for Jamie. I know that's his thing.
We're working. No, we are. Trust me. He was like, "This is what I want." So we're already working on that. I did use them as the starters. Where do you guys have notes? Since you guys are, part of my guinea pigs here. So I used, the stuff that they have, and was like, okay, this is what you need here. This is what you need here. So that's why Missouri was really popular up front. We're just kind of going on from there.
Interesting. Missouri, I would have never thought.
So, yeah, for sure. There's a lot of stuff in Missouri. What kind of types of loans, I assume performing, non-performing, will you guys be handling CFDs?
Absolutely.
So anything that you're like, nothing?
Yeah. Lines of credits, I know that is like the biggest pain for some servicers, but I spent so much time making sure that our software was used correctly to match how a home equity line of credit is to be generated, run, serviced. It's more so our system and entering that information in correctly for the system to actually do its job. So we are not stopping at anything. Seller finance has been really, really big this past 2 years.
Oh, wow, huge.
So we won't shy away from that. I love newly originated loans. They're easy to board, easy to deal with. So there's really no...
HECM loans? Will you guys do HECM, the reverse mortgages?
Yep.
Perfect.
We made sure with our NMLS, because I saw a lot of them coming from this one seller over the past year and a half, 2 years. And I remember not knowing just back in 2017, 16, I think is when I heard of a CFD. So I made sure that we could serve all of those because that's what I've been seeing.
Yeah, that's good. That's
a lot more reverse, a lot more seller finance has been the most popular in the past year.
So we can, and you guys are taking on new loans now, or are we still in look, it's a closed private beta?
It's closed right now. We're going to open it up in October. I wanted to go through at least a full month of testing and make sure, that their invoicing is done correctly, statements are running correctly, late notices, payments are being applied correctly. There's so many other things, making sure lenders get their funds correctly. So I needed to get through all of September and the start of October with some things. So we'll be we're shooting for October, which I think we can do. I know we're going to be able to do in that last quarter.
Are you guys going to be doing any conferences or anything like that? Where will people be able to run into you?
So I was going to be at the DME at the end of this month. But with just how COVID is running, I have a child that's under the age of 12 and he's special needs and I'm mortified. Our cases up here are getting a little bit crazier. So I might not be at the DME. I'm looking into Eddie Speed's event. I think the IMN, which is, I don't know how big of that is for you guys, but might be going there.
It's big, it's expensive. IMN is definitely, it'll cost you some dough. Yeah, we'll be at DME and Node Expo. So
I'd say DME is right in your backyard though,
right? Yeah, it's right down I-4, so it's, just a quick trip.
I thought about it. I tossed around the idea because I feel like that would be, I love the DME. I've always gone. I think it's very fun. I think it's, for me at least, I meet a lot of people there. I don't know how big this turnout's going to be this year, but I also was I have a child who can't get vaccinated and is in school. So I was like, maybe I might hold off on this one.
Good.
But I think I might be able to join in virtually. So
there's going to have that virtual.
Yeah.
That's good. Well, this is awesome. I'm excited for you. It's just great to.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Very cool.
I'm anxious to get some loans tossed over your way and say, here you go.
Trust me, there'll be a huge announcement. I tell everybody right now, because obviously BIFI has been announced, sign up with me. Just get your entity set up. It doesn't cost you anything but your time. It's done electronically. You just have to fill out some forms. So the typical servicing agreement, W-9, ACH form, and things like that, because it'll actually, speed up the process of when you guys are ready to board some loans. You're already set up. Once you're set up, doesn't go anywhere. You're just inactive until there's an active loan. But I tell everybody to just kind of go to BIFILS.com. Fill out this. It asks you for your name. It's a form. It asks you for your company name, first and last name, phone number, email address. Once you hit submit, you're actually sent an email that I've actually drafted. It's automated, where it gives you all the forms to set up. And once you complete them, they instantly shoot over to me. So then we'll at least have everybody set up. And when the doors are open, at that point, you're just doing your loan boarding setup with me. and at that your entity's here. So I've had investors who have one entity, but I've had investors who have 7 different entities start setting up, and it actually cleans up our process a little bit as well.
Awesome. Cool. Well, so if people want to get in touch with you now, it's BIFILS.com. I don't know if there's an email you want to throw out, or just go there.
They can go there. It'll give them also access to our newsletter. So every time you get a license update and things change, you want to be a part of that. So it'll be newsletter at BIFILS.com, or you could always email me at servicing@BIFILS.com.
We'll put these in the description.
Yeah, we'll put it in the description. And you got any other questions?
No, we're kind of running low on the battery, so.
Works out perfectly. So, Shante, thank you so much. It was a pleasure again. We're happy for you. I can't wait to see you guys explode. And it's nice to see somebody coming in, you know, a servicing company for servicers by servicers.
For investors by investors.
Yeah. By investors for investors. Yeah, well, you know what? You're yeah, exactly. And it's just it's such a huge opportunity. We'll be supporting you and happy to send you guys business along the way.
Absolutely. And you guys let me know how I can help in any way. I naturally send people to PaperStack just because I think it's user friendly. I'm on there all the time looking. Just got to creep through some stuff. Obviously, I can't just be a servicer. I have to be an investor too. So if there's anything I can do, you guys let me know.
Awesome. Will do. Have a good one. We'll talk to you soon.
Thank you so much.